We've gathered here in Krzyżowa because of our project about women, and we are here with people from Croatia, Poland and Germany, and we can get to know our cultures better and meet lots of interesting people in there.
So in the Her Story project, our most important role was to find out about the rights of women and why the rights of women were not fulfilled or treated well in history as well as today. But we believe that to understand why we have such a rhetoric of sexism today and why today we face a lot of problems in the struggle of women for the rights, we need to understand how these rights of women evolved throughout history and what is the story behind that. So today we're going to explain to you exactly this history and how the historical evolution of the rights of women brought us to our modern situation through a small chronological order that we are going to shoot for you today.
At the beginning, people were living in caves, men hunting for food for the whole family, and women took care for children and for the whole house.
In the Middle Ages, men got more power because the religion said that men are superior. In that time, there was a lot of wars, which meant that men still were more important than women.
So through explaining how the rights of women evolved throughout history, from the first societies to the Middle Ages to the Enlightenment to today, we've seen that there were some interesting trends of the idea of the consciousness of rights falling and rising again. And unfortunately, we believe that today we have a falling trend. We believe that we need to work harder on the rights of women, but now that we understand why certain things happen in history, it's a good first step. And the next thing we got to do is that each and every one of us involve themselves in fighting for the rights of women equal to men, because as history teaches us, we are all human.
For me, the most interesting workshop was probably Rhetoric of Sexism, because it showed that no matter how you do or what you do, it's sometimes, even though you are not realizing it, you're doing something which is sexistic, or you don't really know how, but you're doing it, so it is shown here on that workshop, and even it is useful for me even if I do debates, so it's really useful, those logical fallacies or something like that. So that is probably why I like that workshop the most.
Mostly we work in groups. For example, in the Kreisau Women workshop, we had the job of making a presentation about one special woman that we are going to interview, and I found it extremely interesting. I'm going to interview Freya van Moltke, and I found it extremely interesting that she, as a woman of high education, a woman with a PhD, still respects her husband to that degree that she will always support him, and that her husband, which for that time was really liberal, still found that her job and something that she liked was a childish play.
I was presenting Margaret von Trotta. She was a brave woman that presented a great new system, and she was trying to develop some new system that could help Germany in that time, to develop on more way, to develop on new basis and not on the Nazi basis. And I think that with this system, maybe she would that system was implemented, maybe the Germany would pass better, and the situation in Europe at that time would be better. So I believe that she was a brave woman and smart and intelligent and independent woman.
During this project, we learned a lot about the people who were part of the resistance and part of the Kreisau Circle, but more importantly, we learned about women of the Kreisau Circle, which are not mentioned and which are not really so famous as the men of the Kreisau Circle. We learned about their lives and about how their influence was important for the whole resistance. We also, as a part of this project, we're getting prepared for the other part in Berlin, where we are going to meet the families of these women and find out even more.
Our aim is actually to find out what role did Freya play in the Kreisauer Kreis. Also, we want to know how she supported the Kreis. And we are aiming to gain more knowledge about her, because about her personality, because we find her very interesting, since it was not easy at that time to take part in politics, and especially because she was a woman. And what was your first impression of her when you saw her the first time?
My first impression was his letter, which was a very warm and hearty one. And when I then met her, my first impression was how little complicated it was. She just said, "I'm Freya." She didn't say, "I'm Mrs. von Moltke" or Countess von Moltke. She didn't like it at all when somebody called her Countess of Moltke. She had this a mixture of uncomplicated personality and this American way of life, where you just say, "I'm Freya," just the prename, which is not for the person of her age. She was, when I met her, she was in the 70s. That's not normal that I was in the 40s and she was in the 70s. That's not normal that you just say Freya.
Miss Clarita, thank you for doing this interview. Firstly, I would like to talk to you today about Kreisau Circle and involvement of your mother on that issue, and especially about Kreisau Circle and women in it. And I would like to start maybe, could you describe me your mother?
She grew up in the pre-war, after war and pre-war, between the two wars. She actually was born still in the First World War. And so it was a rather difficult period, and already in school she had to confront Nazism at the end of her school. And I can well imagine what it means, because even in my school later on there were still Nazi teachers. But what was her, she told me that teachers she liked much too quickly went to be Nazis. And as she was a woman who always tried to understand why, she asked herself, maybe because they didn't have enough self-strength and self-confidence and thought they had to just run along, you know.